Hello, manga bookshelf readers. I'm Melinda Beasi, and this is My Week in Manga. I'm doing something a little special this week. As you may know, we have come upon the Manga Moveable Feast once again, and this month's subject is Moyoco Anno. It's being hosted at Experiments in Manga, and so I'd like to talk a little bit about her and my impressions of her work. Moyoco Anno is one of the most important josei mangaka to be published here in North America, and though not all of the work that's come over from her has been josei specifically, I think that there's a sense in her work in general that it's written from an adult female point of view, and that there's definitely a female audience in mind somewhere in the back of her head, whether or not that's the actual intended audience of the manga. Though all of her works that have been translated into English revolve around the way humans pursue romantic and sexual relationships with each other, unlike most stories that explore these themes, I would consider exactly none of hers to be romance. She might disagree. But despite the fact that her characters do indeed pursue romantic love, sometimes to the detriment of everything else in their lives, there's absolutely nothing romantic about Moyoco Anno's stories. She takes love apart, she analyzes it, she mocks it in most cases, but you never get the sense that she thinks it's a good idea. They say love makes fools of us all, and that's certainly true of Moyoco Anno's protagonists. I've been a fan of a number of Anno Sensei's works over the years, including Flowers and Bees, Happy Mania, which is I think happy is a little bit ironic there in the title. And then most recently, Sakuran, published by Vertical. Michelle and I discussed this at length in Off the Shelf not that long ago, and I'll link to that in this post. But one of her series, which I actually never have read, is Sugar Rune. This was published by Del Rey Manga, so unfortunately it's out of print. But I picked up volumes 1 and 2, and I'd like to talk about those today. I've said that Moyoco Anno uses her works to analyze and take apart and make fun of human romance, and she takes this one step further with Sugar Rune. It's a shoujo manga that ran in Nakayoshi, which is home of some of my favorite magical girl manga like Card Captor Sakura and Shugo Kara. And what's a bit remarkable about this, in my view, is that despite the magazine's very young demographic, after reading the first couple of volumes, I'd say that when it comes to romance, it's possibly Moyoco Anno's most cynical work to date. Sugar Rune tells the story of two young witches, Vanilla and Chocolat, who are sent to Earth from the magical world to engage in a competition to see which of them can collect the greatest number of human hearts. The winner will become the next queen of the magical world, so the stakes are pretty high. But Vanilla and Chocolat are best friends, so they're determined to keep the competition friendly, even though they do face some real danger. Apparently, they've been told that if either of them loses their heart to someone else, they will supposedly die. So the two enroll in a nearby school and begin their quest for hearts. Though demanding, extroverted Chocolat was very popular in the magical world, it's sweet, timid Vanilla who gets the human boys' hearts pounding. And here's where Anno Sensei tackles some of the worst romantic truths head on, as the girls quickly discover that it's apparently awful to be honest with anyone about your feelings, that boys will mostly pick on the girls that they like, and that unlike friendship, love is incredibly fickle and easy to lose, easy to forget, and ultimately kind of meaningless. Chocolat, in particular, since she's having such a hard time, works on manipulating the boys' hearts with her behavior, with her final goal being, of course, to take their hearts without losing her own. So I've only read the very beginning of the series, obviously, but it's already clear that the story will address Chocolat and Vanilla's difficulty maintaining a real friendship while battling for the hearts of the same boys. And I can also confidently say at this point that the story is freaking brilliant. When I had the opportunity to speak with Moyoco Anno at New York Comic Con this year, I asked her about the fact that most of her stories deal with the way that men and women manipulate each other in relationships, and if that was something she was particularly interested in talking about. And she said at the time that it was actually her favorite thing to write about. It was an incredibly important thing for her to talk about in her own life. And that's clear here. I can't think of another manga artist who has spent more time really analyzing this type of human behavior, this type of manipulation that goes into modern romance, what we think of as modern romance. And using this magical girl setup to discuss it is much more effective than I had even imagined. As I said before, I would consider Sugar Rune, possibly, at least at this point, to be the most obviously cynical of her work. And this is comparing it even to stories like Flowers and Bees, which is literally about a protagonist manipulating his behavior, going to someone to learn how to manipulate his behavior and his physical appearance in order to attract women. Which is very upfront about exactly the kind of manipulation that people go through. But as fantasy writers over the years have taught us, it's really the fantasy element of this that brings the message home in Sugar Rune. So Sugar Rune is brilliant. I have an incredible admiration for the artistry that has gone into creating this story. I also kind of hate it. I know that's a really strange thing to say, and I'd probably have to say it about a lot of Moyoco Anno's work in a way, even though I consider myself a fan. Her writing and her artistry are absolutely stunning, and I mean, they're unmatched in this genre, certainly. But I admit that deep down, I just really hate the idea that love is a game, something that can be played to win. And even though, like all of Anno Sensei's work, Sugar Rune is absolutely spot on in its observations, in the conclusions that it draws about the way that people treat each other in the pursuit of love. I mean, even in my own experience, I would have to say, there's nothing false about her conclusions. There's absolutely nothing to criticize. But deep in my heart, I still hate the message. I recoil at the message. So even though I can admire the work, there's a part of me that stands outside of it and refuses to connect simply because I don't want its message to be true. Am I living in denial? Probably. Maybe I could even say definitely. And I think that's part of the power of the work, is that it's forcing me to confront ideas that I really dislike. And because of that, I'll probably seek out the rest of Sugar Rune. It's a smart, stunning piece of work, and I wish it was still in print. Pick up a copy of the first volume while you still can, and tell me what you think about it. I'd actually love to hear from all of you. If you're unfamiliar with Moyoco Anno's work, please head over to Experiments in Manga, where you can find all the rest of the links from this week. I know Ash has posted write-ups on all of Anno Sensei's series that have been published in English, and there are a lot of contributions from others as well. So it's well worth checking out. Here's the link. I'll be back next week with a regular edition of My Week in Manga. I hope to see you then.